Hello guys, welcome to this short tutorial. I would like to share some tips about how to integrate NX with Angular and NestJs. Maybe you already heard about the debate going around on the topic of monorepo versus polyrepo. So without going into too much detail, we will see how we can set up a monorepo using NX with Angular and NestJs. So to set up a monorepo using NX, Angular, and NestJS, the first thing to do is to have the CLI of all three already installed. So we'll not cover during this tutorial how to install them, but if you like more instruction, please visit the official website. So now let's dive in. So the first thing we need to do is to create a workspace, and we can use the command npx npx create nx workspace. No. Now we create our workspace with our front-end application using Angular with the command line npx create nx workspace preset Angular. It will prompt us to give a name to our workspace, so we can just call it Monorepo. It's not a meaningful name, but that's okay for what we are doing. So we also have the application name, just call it frontend, which will contain our Angular application. So now we select SaaS, we select ESLint, we don't want NX Cloud, and now it will download all the packages that are necessary for our workspace. It will take a while. Now that the workspace has been installed, we try to cd into the workspace on the repo, and we try to install NestJS NX plugin with the command npm install as a dependency. So this one will allow us to generate uh, when it will be installed uh, the next application. So now using the plugin, we'll be able to install uh, the backend of our application using NX generate, using the plugins that we already installed. So now our backend has been installed. So what we need to do is now to add the server-side rendering SSR to our Angular uh, applica application. So ng add add ng ng add ng universal express engine. So we can say that it's okay to have the analytic to the project to be on. So now the packages have been installed. So now that everything is installed, so now we can just open the our workspace using VS Code. Now we need to make some modification to the app module file of the backend application. But first we need to import the Angular Universal module for Nest using the following command line npm install NestJs ng universal. That way we'll have the Angular Universal module for Nest that we can use in the import of app module. Okay, now let's see when the import is not recognized, so maybe we can try manually to import it. The import is not yet recognized. So we tell what will be used for doing the bootstrapping of the application. So we use the app server module and we use the path where our application will be served from. So the app server module is not also recognized, so we can also try to import it manually. In the front end, we should have it here in the server library. Okay, now let's try to disable this rule. So that way we have our server that is set up. So So now let's try to run our front-end application with the command nx serve frontend. Can also try to run the backend serve backend. Well, at this point, we don't have anything that has yet been generated in the front-end browser. So if you go to the disk, we'll see that the disk is empty. At least the disk doesn't contain front-end anything in front-end browser because we haven't yet built our front-end application yet. So we can do so by running the command and next build front-end instead. So that way we'll build a front-end application and generate it in front-end browser. So here, if we look at it, we see that it has been generated here. So now if you do run our so if you go uh, to the console here, we can see that our application is being served on the port 3333/API. So we can, if you go again to the main.ts, we'll see that application is being served under the prefix API, but which is not exactly what we want. So we can just try to comment this one out for now to serve the application directly on the main route. Now, if you go to the browser, we'll have this message welcome to backend. So you see that our front-end application is not yet served. So the reason why it's not yet served is because if you go to the main controller here, we see that the default route is returning app service get data, which is just this JSON message, welcome to backend. So now we need to tell our server to return the application that was built earlier using NX built frontend. So in order to serve our Angular frontend application, we'll need to create a middleware which will serve the index.html file depending on the route of the request. So we create a middleware folder, and then in it we create a frontend dot middleware. So here I will try to see if our request contains API, then we'll forward it to the appropriate controller. If not, we serve the browser dot slash index.html file. So now what we now need to do is to go to app module file. So now we need to make a bit of modification just to use this consumer that um, this middleware that we just created. So We'll apply it to all the routes. Now again, if you go to localhost 333, we see that our front-end application is served. So we could have stopped there, but uh, when we be doing our local development, we won't be building our front-end application each time that there is a modification. What we'll be doing is to be serving our application and then forwarding application using a proxy.com.json to the backend server. So now let's create a proxy.com.json in our front-end application. So we now need to indicate the path of this proxy.com.json in our angular.json file. So now we will let's look for where we can add the proxy config. Now we'll add the path to it. So now with this modification, uh, we can be able to forward during our local development calls to our backend server. Now let's check that it's working by adding a new service that we make an HTTP call from the front end. So let's create a service. Ng generate service app. So in this service, we try to use the private HTTP of type HTTP client. It's not finding it, so let's import it. HTTP client from Angular HTTP. We create a method here, get data. Return HTTP dot get slash API slash data. Now we're creating the component, a service, a method that will also call this the new HTTP call from the service. Let's call it fetch data. This one app service dot get data. That's the that's the find a new property data. Can just give it to it the type of any. That will be fine for now. And in the template, we can just create a button here. So when we fetch the data, so here we'll try to display it. So now we need to handle this call on the server side. So we can just create here API slash data and see what will happen. Now let's navigate to localhost 4200 and see what will happen. So it doesn't display when you open the console. So you have an error. So it says that HTTP client is not provided. Okay, we need to fix this error. So we need to declare in the app module our HTTP client module. Now if we navigate to the page, we can see that the page is well displayed, and if we click here, we can see that the message is also fetched from the backend. So you can see that the whole pipeline is working NX with Angular and NestJs. I hope you like this video, this tutorial about Angular, NestJs, and NX. Please don't forget to like the video and to subscribe to the channel because more are coming. But before you know it, I'll be here dropping other videos.